What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be looking at unlocking 4 classes, specifically the Hunter, the Berserker, the Sentinel and the Warden in one game of Saga mode. It is basically how I did it, and the only reason I really ended up working out that way is because those are the last 4 that I needed to unlock, so I figured I would do a run specifically geared towards unlocking these 4. And what I'll do in this video is go through the steps that you need to bear in mind to do this all in basically one sitting. So I guess you could do this essentially in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. You can unlock all 4 of these, and it's actually fairly straightforward if you plan accordingly. But without any further ado, let's get right into the detail. Now, first and foremost, in terms of the class that I was using to actually do this in this playthrough was the Seer. It makes the most sense to use the Seer simply because of the fact that you have Tempered as a skill, and one of the classes you're going to be going for require you to essentially go across the entire map. So you're just going to cut out on a lot of issues that you might have with temperature by having Tempered as a skill, which is of course one of the skills that makes the Seer so good, because it essentially makes I almost said weather effects, but rather temperature effects have no effect on you whatsoever. So you never have to worry about potions or weird armor that have elemental protection effects. Now, when we're talking about the actual way in which we're going to play this, the idea is, of course, the end goal here is Warden, which has a requirement of existing beyond day 15. So my mindset with starting this out and with going into this was essentially to play the game as if I'm playing it normally, but essentially skipping doing the hideout, because there's no real reason to do the hideout at all. Because the second point is we're not actually going to kill Fenrir, and we're just going to essentially, I mean, you could totally do it. You could totally prioritize within this run somewhere to go and take care of Fenrir as well. But I just figured I'll concentrate on base defense and basically creating my build in such a way that I can protect the base to the best of my ability, because you do need to exist quite a few days into Fimbulwinter, where it's basically all night and you're sort of stuck in your base protecting yourself against the fiends. Now, the order in which it probably makes most sense to do this would be Sentinel first, then Hunter, then Berserker, and then Warden. And as I'll explain each one separately, I think it'll make a little bit more sense. But when we look at Sentinel first, Sentinel's unlock requirement is of course to block 25 attacks in 10 seconds. Now, the easiest way that I found to do this was, as soon as you can get hold of the Land of Pools, or you can find the Land of Pools in your exploration, which can be as soon as day 1, 2, 3 or anything like that, you simply just run around and you look for a large cluster of the goblin throwers or warriors. I think the throwers work better, and I'll explain why just now. But basically the sweet spot would be about between 5 and 7 of these mobs attacking you simultaneously. Now, of course, you can run around in the Land of Pools and you can find their little, sort of like strongholds or little areas where they hunker around a chest, and that's going to have a larger concentration of them. But all you do is you just get a bunch of them to attack you. You hold in your block button and you kind of soak up that damage. 25 attacks need to hit you in 10 seconds, and the little goblin throwers throw the rocks actually quite fast. So if you have about 4 or 5 of them wailing on you with rocks, and maybe 1 guy in melee, or a second, maybe 2 goblin warriors in melee, it will pop no problem, as you've seen on the screen here, and that will be Sentinel done and dusted. Next up in our list of 4 will of course be Hunter. Now, Hunter's unlock requirement is that you need to basically visit and unlock all of the shrines on the map. Now, I only recently started counting the amount of shrines on a map, but I've found it to vary in two cases. But basically you're looking for anywhere between 20 to 22 shrines that you need to visit. Of course, the main base is included in that number. Now, the most important thing that you have to bear in mind here is that at least two shrines will be on Fenrir's Island, which means that you have to complete the bridge to Fenrir. So you have to bear in mind that there's a resource cost associated with that. You're looking at 2,500 souls, you're looking at 50 cut stone, 30 wrought iron, and then you're also looking at 10 ancient cores, which basically you get from killing the giants. So again, as I've mentioned right at the beginning when we were discussing how we were going to do this, the point is that you should be viewing this as a normal run of Saga, with the only difference being that you're trying to get as far as possible as you can. And like I said, you can work in a Fenrir kill if you want to or not. In this particular case, when I unlocked these 4, I did not. I mostly just concentrated on gathering as much materials as possible, because again, when we get to the last 2, you will realize that this can be quite resource intensive on things like wood and, you know, wrought iron, cut stone. And again, like I mentioned, having to unlock this bridge as well to access the at least 2, possibly 3 shrines which are on the Fenrir Island. You also need to bear in mind that resource cost is there waiting for you. The other thing is you also do need to go through the underpass, which is the 2 caves that connect the area where the hideout is with the rest of the world. It's basically like a plateau that's upstairs, so you have to go through that underpass so you can access the usually there's also 1 to 2, possibly 3 shrines on that side as well. Again, mentioning that you don't have to do the hideout. You absolutely can do it if you're looking for the resources in there, the souls in there. If you got some time to kill, you can absolutely do it, but it's not necessary because that's not going to net you any additional shrines. Once you then pop the 20 to 21 shrines, the last one, you're going to get the hunter up, and that'll be 2 of the 4 done and dusted. Then in terms of the Berserker and the Warden, we can kind of discuss them together, because in working towards the Warden was the best way for me to get the Berserker. But basically what you're trying to do is, for your last couple of days, you're trying to prep a base that has guard towers up, which are shooting at the enemies as they're coming in. And this is basically, I'm talking now after you hit permanent night mode, Fimbulwinter, which is essentially day 13. And so then at the same time also build yourself some gates, and you can also upgrade those gates to, you know, level 2 or level 3. But the bottom line is you're going to use the gates as a mechanism to gather up as many mobs at once as you can. Now, generally speaking, in an evening's push towards your base, it tends to happen that one gate is not so heavily attacked, and then the other 2 gates carry a, you know, a sort of like a bigger attack towards them. In my case, it was the one up and to the right, and in this case I was able to just wait a little bit until there were just enough enemies outside, and you'll definitely be able to tell that on the radar. And then all you do is you pop the gate open, and they will all come through that small little area, funneling through there. And then with something like a Nornir axe, or even one of the level 4 weapons, the golden weapons, you will have an access to an AoE ability. In the case of the Nornir axe, this works really well because by default the lightning does so much additional damage to these mobs. And then secondly, the AoE, or rather the right click ability of the Nornir axe, which is the sickles that roll out like that, do an immense amount of damage. So as you can see, that easily allowed me to rack up the amount of kills that I needed. And again, just as a reminder, what we're talking about here is we're talking about killing 20 enemies in 10 seconds, which seems like a lot, but actually I managed to get it on the first try with ever trying it this way, and that was done. Now, lastly, that's then going to lead us into the Warden as well, because the point is just with the Warden that all you have to do is just hold out until day 15. Now, it's actually beyond day 15, so that's the last thing that I would mention and just remind you of, is that it doesn't help that you just make it to day 15. You technically have to make it to day 16. So day 15 has to conclude, and then the Warden will pop up, and then you're good to go, and you can go ahead and Bifrost out. But that's the method that I use to unlock these 4. As I've mentioned, I've done it. English, don't fail me now. I did it in one run of Saga mode, and it was actually quite enjoyable because it was I was able to rack up a lot of, you know, XP, and of course I killed about, I think, 3 or 4 giants as well. Like I said, the only difference being that I didn't actually do a Fenrir kill. But I definitely think if you're very efficient, and this was me trying it out literally the first time and sort of just trying to cram as much into one run as possible. But I think if you're very efficient and if you plan your days out correctly, and of course access, you know, something like the Nornir axe as soon as possible, and probably use the Seer, it's entirely possible for you to work the hideout into this run as well as a Fenrir kill, which I might try down the line just as a little challenge to myself. But that then means that I have all 8 classes finally unlocked now, which is pretty cool. And now I can of course start experimenting with some of the classes which I haven't had access up until now, like for instance the Sentinel and the Warden. But that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Go ahead and let me know in the comments down below which of these classes is your favorite, which classes you've enjoyed playing, which ones you're still stuck trying to, you know, unlock. And go ahead and ask me any questions about this content or any other thing about Tribes of Midgard that I might be able to help out, or at least point you in the right direction. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching. As I've mentioned, one last thing, go ahead and join the Discord, which is linked in the description down below. We have a dedicated section for Tribes of Midgard, but also for other games which the community likes to play. There are rooms for you to play with other community members in, and there are specific areas where you can ask for help or any kind of guidance, and generally it's just a fun place to hang out and probably one of the better places to get hold of me since I'm quite active on it. But again, for the last time, that's it. Thank you so much. It's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.